They said there's no doubt you'll surely lose. Go ahead and sing your tune. We didn't listen, stayed right on the truth. And now we're on the right side of the news.
Good morning to the right side of the news. This is Nick Gardner. I'm here with Leslie Sawyer, and we're going to give you the new update. Welcome to Right Side of the News. We're starting right off with Doug Jenke picking on Nick. Can you believe that? Good morning. What is today? Today's the first day of the rest of your life. It's December 24th. I need a reference from you and Leslie because Santa said if I can get 10 references that I've been a good boy this year, he'd stop at my house, and nobody is willing to sign a reference for me. Would you sign a reference for me?
I got to be honest. I'm sure Leslie agrees. No, we won't. I'm just...
Well, to hell with that big fat Santa. Don't come to my house.
Well, I'm just trying to be honest here. No. Speaking of Santa, the Dutch, who are dying, they have, under woke DEI push, thank you liberals, have given up what they had. Their version of Santa Claus was called Sinterklaas or Santa Claus.
If they'd have taken baths, they'd have had Santa, but no, it's Sint. They can smell him coming.
Well, it looked very oddly much like ours. Big white guy, red suit, and he was supported by a bunch of guys who his helpers would go down the chimneys themselves. We'd go down the chimneys themselves, and then they would come out all black. So they used to have this thing called Sinterklaas on December 5th, and it was these guys that were always with these people playing the Sinterklaas. They were all blackface, and it's because of the ash. Well, that got turned into it's a racism thing, so Sinterklaas is no longer allowed in Holland. So there you go. You speak. At least we can still celebrate the fat white guy.
You've got it mixed up, Home Skillet.
I do?
Santa Claus. It was because they could smell Randolph coming a mile away. Randolph was my favorite reindeer. His place in line was right behind Rudolph, and he couldn't stop as fast.
See, there you go. They had little collisions right there. Probably didn't have any insurance, is my guess.
And I bet his nose didn't glow either.
Probably brown.
Anyway, I've about wore that joke out. I won't
That's all right. I'm only here for the 30 minutes. So let's figure it out. What are we talking about today, Nick? Because there's a lot going on in the world that I'm sure people who pay attention might know, and the people who aren't paying attention definitely don't know.
Well, I've got this. It's an 8-minute clip from Tucker Carlson and Sean. Do you know what his last name is? It'll come up here.
He's got his clips podcast every now and then.
He gets some really interesting people on his podcast.
Yeah.
And like Joe Rogan, they're too long for the normal person to sit down and listen to. But this is like an 8-minute clip of Tucker and him, and they're explaining some things that have gone on with the Joe Biden presidency that I think a lot of people weren't quite aware of, with an eyewitness, with a person that was there that was in real tight with the Joe Biden cabinet. So let's play it. Leslie.
Joe Biden has metastatic bone cancer.
I saw that.
And of course, every urologist in the world immediately knows this is a lie. He's known for years because a PSA test shows, and this is a very slow-growing cancer, and now it sounds like it's terminal. And so for 10 years, his doctors have known that he has this, and they've lied to us about it, and everyone's mad at Joe Biden. But the other way to look at it is, like, who kept that secret from the rest of us, and who's actually running the government?
Now, first of all, I want to sincerely wish President Biden a full recovery and lasting health. No one should face something as serious as cancer. Now, that being said, the announcement of his diagnosis raises legitimate concerns, ones that any reasonable person would consider. Was this discovered earlier without informing the public? And was there a cover-up? These aren't baseless theories. They're valid questions. Even NBC News ran an article titled, "Biden's prostate cancer diagnosis is unusual but not unheard of." Fox, on the other hand, reviewed the former president's health reports and found no signs of aggressive illness. Even if the diagnosis didn't happen while he was president, Biden served as vice president for 8 years and had access to world-class medical care. So things aren't adding up here. And as of recent, his White House doctor invoked the Fifth Amendment during a hearing before the House Oversight Committee, declining to answer any questions relating to the former president's health.
I mean, do you know Lindy Lee?
No.
You heard of Lindy Lee?
No.
She was on the staff, and she came on the show to talk about who was running the country. She said it was all the staffers. It was all the millennial staffers that were pretty much running the country, and nobody was talking to each other. Everybody had their own agendas, and yeah, I mean, pretty much like all the stuff that we already knew, but she just came on to confirm it and then switch sides.
But I mean, that's like the opposite of democracy, right?
I mean, yeah.
I guess I vacillate between not being shocked at all. I mean, of course. I mean, he was visibly demented. So why should we be surprised that he also, hey, by the way, he has terminal bone cancer? But on the other hand, it's like that is so not the system that we signed up for and that we participate in.
Exactly. For any democracy to function the way it's meant to, public trust in government and its institutions is absolutely essential. Without it, the whole system starts to just fall apart. That's why the Biden cover-up has accomplished nothing but reducing this trust to levels not really seen before. According to a survey conducted by Partnership for Public Service, in the spring of 2024, only 23% of Americans trust the federal government, down from 35% just 2 years earlier. Even more alarming is the fact that only 15% believe the government is transparent. These aren't just small numbers. They point to a real crisis of credibility. But Lindy Lee revealed much more than Sean mentioned in this clip. So let's hear it directly from her. Just for context, at the start of the clip, she's talking about Biden's announcement about dropping out of the race.
What I will say is people were kept in the dark about the timing of the announcement, including the highest echelons of the United States government. For example, Anita Dunn, whom I worked in close concert with, had no idea. She did a conference call that morning telling people that we would stay the course, that they would stay the course. And so she had only like a minute heads up that the announcement was coming. And I can't stress enough how high up Anita Dunn was. She was basically part of the Council of Presidents. Dave, we didn't have a president in the
right.
We had a council of these unelected people that you've never even heard of. And they're Anita Dunn, Mike Donilon, and Steve Ricchetti. 3 of them were running the country. Most Americans, I would say maybe like 1%, if that, have heard of them. Right?
So just to be clear, you don't know who was in the room when he made that final decision, if we're to believe
Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donilon, and his family.
Oh, so you do know.
Yeah.
The reason Lindy's comments matter is that she wasn't just some outsider speculating from the sidelines. She was a former DNC member and someone who personally hosted fundraisers for Biden. That means she had access and knowledge of how things were actually operating behind closed doors. And she's not alone. You see, Jake Tapper released a book recently, and in it, 2 of the names Lindy just dropped are also mentioned. Those would be Mike Donilon and Steve Ricchetti, along with a few other senior advisors. They reportedly formed what's being described as a Politburo, which had 5 people on it, who were running the country. And Joe Biden was at best a senior member of the board. Tapper also alleges that Mike knew Biden since the 80s. And in January 2024, he dropped from his White House role and worked on Joe's presidential campaign, and reportedly paid himself a $4 million salary. Imagine that. But it doesn't end there, as there was one more name mentioned by Lindy. And trust me, you're not ready for what you're about to hear.
And please bear in mind that during this time, Biden had COVID, and Hunter was basically sitting in on White House meetings, high-level meetings that required security clearances. This guy is honestly, I'm not even entirely sure if he's a recovering drug addict.
They did find cocaine at the White House in an area that he was one of the few people that was in. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's undeniable that he peddled his influence to enrich himself and the big guy, quote unquote. So this is a guy sitting in the Oval Office, listening in on top-level White House meetings throughout this time, throughout the month of July. And I know because my friends are senior aides, and, to like Steve Ricchetti and Nina Dunn. So Biden was like incapacitated this entire time.
About the kingdom of Biden, Stan, and not the United States of America. Tapper's book also mentioned that Hunter was seen as a key force trying to prevent his father from dropping out of the 2024 race. Adding, to understand Joe Biden's deterioration, top aides told us one has to know Hunter's struggles. When you couple these allegations with the unconditional pardon the guy received, it paints an even darker picture. To wrap things up, we have Scott Jennings dropping some truth bombs that every Democrat should give a long listen to.
If I had a nickel for every time I had heard an anchor or a fellow commentator use the phrase, the big lie, after the 2020 election, I'd be a rich man. But I wonder what they have to say for themselves now about the lies that we were told about Joe Biden. Oh, behind closed doors, he's fine. He's riding unicycles and juggling knives and doing trigonometry blindfolded. What would they say about the enormous conspiracy that was required to cover up this impairment? What would they say about the coordinated smear campaign against anyone who dared question it? And what would they say about the clear fact that unelected people were making decisions in a constitutional republic in the name of a president who had no idea what was going on?
Honestly, this clip should be running on a loop in Times Square because it just wasn't the White House sweeping things.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I want to say this one thing before we get going. Simon & Schuster's, the publishing house, is suing Joe Biden for $10 million. They gave him a $10 million advance on his memoirs, and then they discovered he doesn't have any memory.
Well, you know what? They should lose that $10 million because they were that stupid after watching him just give news conferences to think that he actually had a memory. Then they deserve to lose the $10 million. If he was able, him and his team were able to convince them that he could actually remember wiping his ass, and they gave him $10 million, and now they want to sue him. I say too bad. The evidence was there for everybody to see. If they couldn't see it, that's their problem.
Well, one thing I want to pick apart that caught my attention was this diagnosis of prostate cancer all of a sudden so advanced wasn't unheard of. You know what? If you're being checked constantly, it is heard of. But there's so many of us that don't go to the doctor, and that's what they're saying. Oh, he showed up. He's stage 4. Well, that's not unheard of because we've got some tough hombres in our community.
Well, the problem is the point that guy made is, he was vice president, VP for 8 years, and it might not have been there. I mean, I'm going to the doctor today and do the PSA test and all the good crap. So it may not have been there. But he was president for 4 years. And for 4 years, he had the absolute best care on planet Earth over anybody else in existence.
And vice president for 8 years.
Well, the vice president, there was a 4-year gap between. So it could have been clean, air quotes, could have been clean during the 8 years. Then during Trump's years, he was, air quotes, a private citizen, but he still had the best medicine in the world you and I wouldn't get. But then as president, that's their only goal is to keep him healthy and happy, air quotes.
Yes.
So the reality of it that it was not known and it is absolute BS. And that whole transparent stats, I think those numbers are even wrong there. I was surprised when he said there's 15% of people think that the government's being transparent. I think the number's even lower.
Oh, I don't think so. In the last week, I've talked to 2 people that are blaming Trump for the high price of groceries. As soon as we get Trump out of there, groceries will go down. It's all the tariffs. Well, don't you remember the inflation with Biden? No, it's Trump. I mean, these people are serious. They're going to vote for anybody but Trump. And then I was at Baskin & Robbins, and I met a guy, Ammon. He is a junior at Enterprise High School, wants to be a financial banker, financial analyst, and I'm going to get him on one of the shows. Talk about a well-spoken young man. And but anyway, I was talking to him about immigration, and this little girl, she must have been about 17 or 18. She was listening, and when she walked out, she says, "Immigrants are an asset to our country." And I said, "No, they're not." She says, "99% of them are." And she was out and shut the door, you know. She didn't want to pursue an argument. But, yeah, right. How about all the immigrants Biden brought in? Were they an asset to our community, to our country?
Well, and Nick, that's the problem. You know, I say this and it sounds very fatalistic, and I don't mean it to be, but, you know, we have lost the war. We have lost the war. The war is over. They have the schools. They have the junior high school, the high schools. They have the education. They have higher education, if we want to call it higher. They've got the public employees. They have the media. They have the entertainment. They have it, and that's the problem. If we can't get those back, and we're not getting them back. I mean, you know, the idea that we're going to take over a school board, yeah, we might get one person in there, but they're shouted down by this liberal majority.
And you don't have to look any further than SCOE, the Shasta County Office of Education, and we've got an expert on that right here in Leslie. We'll pursue that another time.
Exactly. And you know, and these kids are being taught that it's okay to cut off healthy boobs and you know, healthy peckers in the name of this trans stuff. So why would this girl think that the immigrant story is anything but positive and glowing, and all these illegals that came in, and the 18,000, as has been acknowledged by the FBI, known invaders, we'll call them
terrorists,
with terrorist ties, and they're air quotes keeping an eye on. 18,000 in 4 years came in that our FBI knew were either direct terrorists, went to terrorist camps, or are being supported by terrorists. And this young girl, you can't tell her she will not listen to you. Does not matter what you say, she will not listen to you. And that is that is the stage 4 cancer that is now America. And I've said it, and again, it sounds very fatalistic, but the system has to crash. You can't fix it one peg at a time. In 200 years, you still will not have fixed the problem.
You know, when she has to wear a burqa, she'll probably think that's positive because she won't have to spend $200 a month on makeup.
Well, you know what's funny is you say that, so let me give you a quick story, because remember when we had Leo on our show for a long time?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So he's over in Thailand right now. And back in the day, years ago, during the early Trump days, we had a worldwide chat group going with 2 English guys, one conservative, one liberal. Leo, he was in Singapore, and myself, and we would do this worldwide chat, and we would comment this and that. Well, it turns out the liberal English guy was in Thailand for business, so him and Leo hooked up, and he brought his little girl with him from England. And him and Leo, I just found this out last night, him and Leo were in this discussion about politics, because that's just where it seems to go. And this liberal guy from England, apparently, according to Leo, admitted he was 100%, not 50, not kind of got it wrong, 100% wrong with the multiculturalism and allowing these people in, because his little girl now is looking at a future wearing a burqa because he voted for liberal politicians. So I thought that was interesting. So when you talk about that, you know, she's not gonna be able to buy makeup. Yeah. You're you know what? You're not far off.
Well, you know, when we liberated all the women in Afghanistan and they took their burqas off, the men made them put them back on because they were so damn ugly.
Well, you know, it's funny, as I was in Holland last week, and you know, I got to be honest with you, when there's women that have, you know, the hair stuff and everything, there's some of them that have some really nice eyes. You're like, wow, that's, you know, they got some makeup, but they look nice, and you're like, I wonder what the rest of it is. Well, you can't see them. They may be missing 4 teeth for all you know.
Isn't that the truth? Or they're black from chewing quat.
But, you know, getting back to that video clip we just watched, you and I were talking before we went live on this, and it is my humble opinion that Trump is a piece of shit. I'll just say it publicly. He's not what we thought we got. He's developing with Planeteer Peter Thiel the largest surveillance apparatus. The Nazis in China would be in awe of what Peter Thiel and President Trump are doing. But Mike Johnson, the piece of crap that is our House Representative Speaker, he knew. He came out after the election. After the election, that's piece of shit. I can't use any other words. He came out after the election and said, oh, yeah, a year ago, 2023 or early 24, I had a discussion with President Biden. He didn't even know what he had signed.
Oh, that was about liquid gas that they were sending? It doesn't
matter. He had a conversation with Biden, and he said Biden didn't know anything he signed, and Mike didn't say a word.
That's right.
And this lady right here, this Chinese chick or whoever she is, she waited till after the election to come out. Why didn't people who saw this, why didn't they come out? And why didn't Mike Johnson come out? He was Speaker of the House and go,
you know, the apparatus they had against him. If I say something, they'll kill me. They'll kill the family. I can understand being afraid to come out while they're in power.
I get that. But it's kind of disingenuous to, after the building has collapsed, to say, yeah, we forgot to put bolts in it, you know?
That's right. I see your point. But
it drives me crazy because everybody, you and I, we commented it regularly on our weekend show, our Sunday show.
Poke the hornet's nest.
And here we are again, hearing from somebody, air quotes, on the inside. I know Mike Johnson has now publicly said more than one time that he had a meeting with Biden, and Biden had no clue what he was signing. And instead of Johnson going to the press, the media, anybody who would listen, he kept quiet until after Trump was elected. Well, and that's just disingenuous, to be honest.
At the same time, in this clip, she said that the millennials were actually running the country.
Surprise.
Look how screwed up the country is because of all their idealisms. They're fed by these teachers that are socialists, in my opinion.
The tech people, Gates and Zuckerberg and Bezos and Musk. Musk is all part of that because, you know, don't forget, Musk was a lifelong liberal.
Yes.
So just like Joe Rogan. I'm not a fan of Joe Rogan. I think he has an interesting show. But he was a lifelong liberal, and you have to have a certain mental defect to have been a liberal at all to understand that there's not one positive thing about what they believe, what they see, who they support. There's not one. You can't do that. And yet here's Joe Rogan now being held as this bastion of great information. And he's got good guests, and he's got good content. But it's like, you know, Tulsi Gabbard, you know, hot chick, but her entire life, she was a big Obama supporter. She loved the Obamas. And until she didn't, she loved the Clintons. You know, people change. I get that. And as information becomes available, who knows, maybe in the future, Nick, I'll become a liberal. I'll change from being a conservative. I rarely doubt it. But it's just sad that we had this thing now telling us what we already knew.
This is actually the opposite of democracy. They keep calling our country a democracy. It's a representative republic. But, you know, it goes all the way down to the city of Reading. We have hired a new city manager from out of the area. And I went to the city council meeting, this last one, and I asked the city attorney, I asked Steve Bade, I asked Jack Munns, and I asked somebody else, they did this all in closed session. I said, what was the vote to hire this guy? Oh, we can't tell you. We can't tell you. We made a good decision, though. There's no transparency here. These people are dictators. Yep. You know, after they've made their decision, there's no reason that can't be public information. I think there ought to be a script of the questions that were asked, the different guys and their answers. There's no transparency there.
Well, these idiots in the local government, you know,
except for Corky and Chris and Kevin.
I mean, I like the three at the Board of Supervisors. I think they have the right direction. They're just facing
and integrity.
But these people are spending yours and my money. They're spending our money. We have a right under the Constitution to know what it is they're spending it on and how they spent it. So I was saying on the show with you the other day that there should be no closed sessions. If we're negotiating with a union and we're about to make a cop $600,000 a year, why? If it doesn't need to be secret, let's figure it out. If we're going to pay a police chief $350,000 a year, why are we paying a police chief $350,000? If we're going to pay people in upper management and give them 30% raises, it's your money and my money. We should know why they're doing this.
I can understand closed sessions, maybe when it's salary negotiations or real estate negotiations. But after the decision has been made, after the decision has been made, it should be out in the open why they made the decision and who voted for it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's...
Look at that. We agreed on something.
Well, we agree on some stuff. I got to be publicly nice to you every now and then, or else I'll get a complaint from the AARP for you.
Leslie will run you out of here.
No, Leslie likes me more than you, I think.
I don't think so. She's in there winking at me right now.
I bet she is. But you can't remember because you're as old as Biden. So, keep winking, Les.
That's why I write notes down.
I know that. No, it is. That's what I'm saying, Nick, is the system has to crash. We have to have a complete and utter crash and all that goes with that. And it's not pleasant.
I'll bet you're looking forward to the profits you're going to make when it crashes. Selling horse meat up there.
Nope.
Doug Jenkins butcher shop.
No, I'm not looking forward to what's coming, but it has to happen because you can't flush the toilet. You can't cure stage 4 cancer of the country or the world, the West, by pulling out one cell here and there. It's got to crash. There's going to be hard times, in my opinion. I could be wrong. But when you look at the illegals that came in the last 4 years and all the homelessness, those folks are not going to be happy when there's no money.
They're not happy now.
Well, imagine they're not happier when the things get tough and the average person's really, they're losing jobs and that's happening.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so, when you talk about the local politicians need to be more transparent, that's what they're supposed to do. They're of the people, by the people, and for the people. Our government has gotten to the point that we are treated as peasants. And they are more educated than us, especially in the work arena. You deal with the departments in public rec and all that stuff. They all have this air of I am better than you, when in reality they actually work for us. And you can't go against the system because you're paying for your lawyer and you're paying for their lawyer.
You know what they are? What every public person I've dealt with, and I've dealt with a few of them, just calling up and asking questions, pointing out something that's wrong, I have come to the conclusion they're expert excuse makers. They very seldom do they agree with me or come to a conclusion that can fix a problem. They've got an excuse why it happened, and it's not their fault.
Well, it's funny is in the private sector, we actually have to do a thing called customer service, reputational a benefit for our work environment. When you work in the government, you get paid whether you do a good job or a bad job. You get paid whether you accomplish anything or not. That's why projects that should be able to be submitted and approved in no time can take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or longer, because you've got all these people who have no accountability. They can sit there and say, Nick, we haven't got to it yet. And you're like, yeah, but you've had it for 6 weeks. Yeah, but we just haven't got to it, Nick. And there's nothing you can do.
That's right. And they don't answer their phone. They've got an answering machine, and they decide whether they want to call you back.
Well, I will tell you this. This is a funny story because it contradicts what I just said. I was trying to get some information on a permit status on a building. And you go into the new City of Reading website, which is just a piece of crap. Fire the tech people, but it's terrible. It's horrible. If I was an 80, I'm 60 years old and I couldn't even navigate it. Then I tried to get to the building department, and then you can't get to the building department. Then you call the voicemail. They say you can put in a request for a permit, and they'll get back to you in up to 10 days. So I sent a rather scathing, nasty email to whoever gets the email. And I won't use her name because I don't want her to get circled out. But I got a lady who responded. And I will tell you, this lady, she killed it. She got me all the information I needed in like a series of 4 emails. And I kept saying, rock on, you're great, you're awesome, because she was the exception to the rule.
Yes.
And so, yeah.
I have called the city numerous times about potholes that were in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
And they were fixed the next day.
Yeah.
I've had good with the laborers, the workers, the common workers, not the management. I have always gotten good responses.
Yeah.
Where do I go for this? Oh, well, let me transfer you over here. Well, no, that's not the spot, but here, go here. And they get me to where I want to go, and they get the answers I want. But you talk to management, boy, they just run you around in circles, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, Ronald Reagan said it best. The 9 worst words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. That's pretty much sums up what I think of it.
Oh, I want to bring to everybody's attention before I get too far. ShastaAnon.com came out with a new video. There's going to be a part 2. This one's 19 minutes long. The subject is Eric McGreeny. And boy, I tell you, it is interesting because it goes back. and it shows all the players in the county. And 99% of them aren't there anymore. Now that we've got some conservative in, they've left, and they're on some nonprofit or some darn thing, and they're still trying to manipulate our county. And it is eye-opening. The one that really caught my eye was when Bazinko ran for re-election, and I remember him saying that he will serve his full term.
Yeah.
He retired in 10 months, and that's when Eric McGraney was on. But I did find out the reason why he retired 10 months early.
And that is?
His house was finished up in Idaho.
Well, he probably knew that when he said he was going to stay out the whole term anyways. Those are things that have pretty hard dates. The contractor can tell you, Nick, when your house is going to be ready.
But the point is they have lied to us, and they always have reason to retire early, like Kathy Darling Allen, and pick their replacement, so they run as an incumbent. If Joanna Francesca hadn't done such a poor job in this last election and the election before that, she would have been a shoo-in.
Yep.
But boy, I'll tell you what, there's so many things that she and Kathy Darling Allen did that made our elections non-transparent. It's just like they do them in closed session. That's what they've been doing. They've been doing elections in closed sessions.
Merry Christmas, Nick.
Do you have to go?
Well, I have to go. I have a doctor's appointment.
Oh, okay. Well, Merry Christmas to you, too. You know, Santa cut me off like about 60 years ago because I was so misbehaved.
Best decision he
made.
made.
That's why I need references.
The best decision he ever made.
Hey, have a great Christmas, everybody. Bye.